We have not, we are early enough in the stages that we have not sought any bidding. We have a Sioux Falls firm that will be doing the sprinkler extensions that's acceptable to the chief. And so that contract we received yesterday, it'll get signed and put in place, and we'll start work right about April 1. So.
They're gonna finger off and go into each apartment, is that what they're gonna do?
Yeah, they will,
I assume that.
yeah, and the chief has been tremendously helpful to us in terms of the type of requirements that he's requesting that has helped keep that extension of those to a very affordable.
Sorry, Mike.
Yeah.
Go ahead, Mike.
I didn't hear any comments regarding the work to be done regarding the elevator in that building, but I know in
I was gonna ask.
recent past, it has been quite a headache, or maybe there's been work done that I'm not aware of. Maybe the fire chief has some awareness about that. But is there any comments about the status of that building's elevator? I know it's a headache when it's down.
I was gonna ask that
Thanks.
too.
A headache and a backache and a leg ache for the firefighters, et cetera. Yes, we have been working over the course of the last year, I think, and have made improvements in the existing elevator. There is a second phase that we're looking at. It will not be part of this project because of the cost, but we're looking at the potential to add a second elevator into the building. But it's because of the financing, it's gonna have to be a second project or a second phase to it. And that,
Yeah, that's correct. So the current elevator has been fixed. It recalls now with the fire alarm system to the main floor and locks out so people can't use it. And then we had to go through different areas to look for a second elevator spot because it is a historical building. So they won't let us just slap one on the outside of the building and punch holes in it. So we did find a location that was approved by the Historic Commission inside one of the major stairwells. And you guys have to realize these stairwells in this building are about quadruple the normal size of a stairwell. So what we would do is reduce one to a regular size stairwell that you normally would see in any type of building, and the elevator shaft would be put in that one stairwell. So that has been drawn up and it is in a plan, but it's secondary because of the cost of the elevator itself. So it is in the works yet. But currently, don't think I say anything, knock on wood here, but the elevator working the way it's supposed to now, and we haven't had any hiccups for a long time.
and the chief actually has keys to it now.
Yeah, we can actually manually run it, which we couldn't before. So they've done a lot of work on it.
And just because I'm not sure, curiosity wise, if somebody in one apartment leaves something on the stove, do the sprinklers kick on in all the apartments, or is it isolated?
It's just
such-
one head.
Yeah.
Yeah, so when you see in the movies and the whole building gets wet, that's not how those work. The heat has to set off each individual head. The most heads I've ever seen activated at one time is 11. And that was out of Van Sanitation recently with that recyclability fire. Otherwise, it's usually just one.
What's the time frame of the project? When do you expect this to all be completed?
If we, the application will go in March. The current timeline is application goes in March. We'll get the okay, hopefully, knock on wood. We'll get the okay from the HUD roughly June, middle of June. And then we'll start the rest of the work completed. The sprinkler system will start in April regardless. It will start in April. And so we would hope to pretty much looking at somewhere around 11 to 12 months for the work to be completed.
And people will live in this process? The
Yes.
money's gonna be displaced?
Yep. We have a provision that, like say for example, if we have to, the windows, we usually typically do those in place. We just did the 387 windows in the Martin Apartments down in Sioux City. Did all of those with the residents in place. The contractor basically moved all of their belongings out of the way, did this window, completed this window, moved the belongings back, and then the contractor moved the next window and
Okay.
worked that. We try to have as minimal displacement as we can. Occasionally, like say for example at Lamar's Estates, which is a property that Lou owns, we just had a full remake of one of the apartments there. We moved the resident into a hotel for 10 days actually, while we redid the kitchen, redid the bathroom completely, and put her up in off-site. And so we can do that if we need to. We try to keep the people in there as much as we can, both for their benefit and the cost.
I think it's an exciting project, and I'm glad to see that they're investing some money back into this, because I know it's in need of repair, and
It's time.
it's time.
So I don't know if there's an answer to this question, but if for some reason you don't receive the HUD financing, do we strike, I mean, is any of this, I mean, does it all go away?
By the time that the application is either acted upon or not acted upon, we will need to have the property into the ownership of 2021 Floyd Valley Partners regardless. So the lease changes actually will bring the two together. So regardless, they need to be brought together.
Right, but I think what Jason's getting at is that if the HUD financing doesn't occur, he doesn't believe, and I agree with him, the HUD amendment, that's a part of the documents. We wouldn't
You don't need that.
We wouldn't need the HUD amendment.
No, you'd almost.
So maybe we need to address that in the other lease
I mean,
addendum.
that's all spelled out in section 2.
Yeah.
I mean, the section 2 in here is going back to 99 years, and then also including Exhibit C, which is the HUD.
Yeah.
addendum. So-
So that's
I
something
don't
else
wanna
in the next
jinx
couple
our-
weeks we need to address.
Yeah, I don't want to jinx ourselves, but so far we haven't had, we've redone 14, we've done 14 or 15 of these so far, and none of them have been rejected so far. I'm trying not to jinx ourselves by saying that it is going to happen. Usually that happens if I open my mouth.
Yeah.
So-
Well, I just opened my
Yeah.
mouth, so.
But we believe that everything will be going forward as planned, and we're pretty confident.
Motion establishing February 21, 2023 at 12 o'clock PM is the date and time for a public hearing on updating the long-term land lease regarding Floyd Valley Apartments.
Second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried.
Thank you very much, folks. I'll see you in
Thank
2
you.
weeks. I'll be back. Thank you.
Thank you, Roger.
Okay, moving on to discussion items. Jason, anything?
Just quick, everybody heard about the rail crossing tomorrow? Hopefully it's tomorrow. Fingers crossed by Scott.
Work starting.
Won't anybody show up and heckle the workers?
Picket signs.
First one across.
And then the next thing is the bridge repair project. That bid opening is the 15th. So next Wednesday. So
Yep.
I haven't heard any word on it yet, whether or not bids are coming in. I haven't received any calls.
Okay.
We'll see how that turns out. But that was it.
All right. Jacob's got a lot of talking to do. Mark, do you have anything?
Just a couple of, Plymouth County cyclists asked me to mention that we should look into maybe doing some additional signs on the Loves, specifically like where the semis come out of, letting them know that there's actually a trail here. I think that maybe the general semi-public, I don't know if that's how you'd say it, doesn't understand that that's a trail. And I know the cyclists are gonna be watching for their own public safety, but they wanted me to just bring it up and see if that's something we can look at, so.
Okay.
Probably prior to spring, right, when people start riding more?
We have a ride this Saturday,
Okay.
over to Owens, or Brunsville.
Watch out for trucks.
Yeah, thank you. We'll be going right through
All right. Steve?
Nothing.
I don't have anything. Clark?
Does Mark wanna make a, introduction?
Oh, yeah.
Oh, yeah, I was
Get him
gonna
up
do
earlier.
that. Mark, you wanna
I
do
was
it? or
hoping
Mike?
Ecop
Got a new
would've made the
cameraman.
introduction.
What's that?
I was hoping Ecop would have made the introduction while he was here.
Yeah, I apologize for that.
Jason, grab that camera.
Luke, you wanna come up here?
Mark, or, Greg stepped out, so.
We've got a new code enforcement officer. Luke, I'm gonna let you go ahead and introduce yourself and tell us a little bit about yourself and your family.
All right. I'm Luke Bernhardt. I currently live in Sioux City, but we're wanting to move up here and to move to Lamar's and be a part of the community. I'm taking Greg's position as the code enforcement and building inspector. And, I have a lot to learn, so I'm very excited to get started. So, and
What
I'm
it-
going to do the camera stuff now too. So.
What'd you used to do?
I was a maintenance man for a commercial housing company in Sioux City. I ran their operation for the last 16 years or so.
Got you covered.
And been looking to get out and do something different. This was an awesome opportunity for me, so.
So it's Luke?
Luke, yeah, Luke or Lucas, it doesn't bug me any, but Luke is
Yeah, that's fine.
what everything is basically addressed.
I'll want your cell phone number so I can heckle you.
You have it.
I put it in my phone today, so welcome aboard.
All right.
Thanks, Luke.
I appreciate it, thank you.
Luke is being humble. He's brought a wealth of experience to this position, and he's done an outstanding job his first 2 weeks.
Thank you. Thanks. Has he gone to college or yet? Nope, not yet. Soon. Okay.
Next week.
Nothing. All right, with that, we'll move on to the annual report from the library and YMCA. Like Shirley was fast up, she's gonna go first.
Jan told me I was first. So everybody should have received both the entire annual general information survey, about 27 pages that we submit to the state library. We do that on a fiscal year, and then also more colorful snapshot called by the numbers of the different numbers for the state library for what's going on at the library. I do want to point out that it was a really good year for the library. Our circulation was up, not only just physical items were up 11% over the year before. Our ebook and audio download circulation was up 7% as well. And this is one of the first, even though we were open during COVID, we did a lot of programming. This is maybe one of those first fiscal years that there really wasn't, I don't think, any impact from any of that social distancing or restrictions on room sizes, other than just, what the capacity is. So that was also a really great thing about the year too, is just to get people back in the building and having them use the library. So that was really good. So of course I'm not going to go over the 27-page report, but
Thank you.
unless maybe, but just to point out, just some different things that we always try to point out, where our funding comes from, what our usage is. Still obviously print usage is still way higher than electronic, and but those are all doing well. So it's, in many people, when we talk to them, we don't always say, they sometimes read ebooks, but they prefer print, or they want an audiobook, but they could take the other one. So we have a lot of people who use both. So then the other thing that, I've been asked is, what are our users? Because we can show you what our circulation is, we can tell you how many library cards we have, but what are our unique users? So I spent some time the last couple weeks running different reports. We have about 4 different pieces of software that track different types of usage. Certainly our main software is the one that is where you get a library card with that barcode on it. You come up to the desk and you check something out. That's our main software. And our library is a little unusual in that we set up to have our library cards expire every year. A lot of libraries might have their cards expire every 2 to 3 years, if they do at all, which isn't recommended, but we set ours, and it has been ever since I've been there, to expire every year, so that if you've changed your address, your email, that we have a lot of email changing, we have the most current information. It really just means we update where you're at, what your contact information is, and you're good to go again. And that has to be current for you to access Libby, the ebook vendor. It has to be current for you on a computer, and then also to check out. So it's a pretty good indicator of who's using the library. So when I ran that report as of the beginning of fiscal year 21, it shows that we have 3,938 current library card holders. Now, that means one person walking up to the desk, checking out a book, or calling to update their card, that's one. One person coming up with 4 children, that's still just one, because that's all they have is one card. So, and that's what numbers, sometimes it's hard to know exactly what they're reflecting. Program registration is another software package. So I ran that report to see how many unique people registered for a program, whether it was a story time 3 times a year, like they did summer reading, winter reading, and spring, or they did just one after-school program. So when you look at that, we have 813 unique individuals registered for at least one program. Now, they might have come to 5, 10, whatever, but they at least registered for one. Then the meeting room registration software also lets us run that report. And those, of course, are not library meetings, because I guess that number is, like, we had something like 285 events or something like that, so that's not that number. This is people who are coming in, registering for a study room, a meeting room, something of that nature. And when I was looking at this a couple days ago, I noticed that I put down 187 unique individuals use the meeting rooms. That's actually wrong. It's 187 unique individuals booked the meeting room. How many people came, I don't really have that number. I don't know how many 4-Hers were in there. And sometimes a family visitation might be there. I don't know how many those are, so I couldn't get that one. Then the other thing is we do use a point of sale software. We use Square, which I think a lot of retail businesses use. And we code everything into that, whether they're paid by cash or credit card. So that gives us a number of how many times we code in a fax transaction, a scanned in email transaction, or a copy. And we can't really tell you how many unique people that is. I would say on faxing and scanned email, that number does not correlate at all to library holders. Those are people who, that's the only time they'll probably use the library. They come in and scan something. They have to do employment documents. We see a lot of that. Insurance documents, retirement things. They do a lot of that, and they're not necessarily library card holders at that point. So of course, and then there's always things you can't count, right? You can't, how many people come in just to read newspapers, magazines. A lot of times we'll have people come in and sit at a computer, or sit at a workstation with their own laptop, and we don't necessarily get that number. If they hit our Wi-Fi, then we get it. And that's also on there. That's another one of our software programs we can run. Unfortunately, they don't all overlap. So I can't always parse it all out. So yeah, so that is kind of our year in a nutshell. I don't know if there's any questions. I'd be happy to try to answer them.
Getting your picture for the paper now.
I know, right?
So Shirley, thank you for getting me
Sure.
these numbers. I do appreciate it. Couple quick questions. So if I come in to read a newspaper, I don't scan a card. That's your logistics. I don't really care. But if I come in to use a computer, I don't have to scan it, I can just use the computer?
No, the computer, you get a current library card or a guest pass.
Okay.
And I
Okay.
wasn't able to run how many guest passes, I talked to that vendor, but the backup files were not running, so I
That's
don't
all
know
right.
how many guest
I
passes.
just didn't know how it worked, that's all.
Yeah.
I just wanted to know.
Yeah, and that's why you have to have your library card current. If
I would
you're-
think on computers you would have to, yeah.
Unless, if you're coming from, we do have people coming from Arkansas that say they're just in town,
Right.
somebody doesn't have computers at home or whatever, they do get a guest pass.
Yes, pass, yeah, I get that, that makes sense. All right, thank you for me.
Thank you.
Okay.
Very informative.
Thank you very much.
Thanks. Yep.
You can just leave it.
All right, first timer. My name is Jackie Perez. I started as the CEO of the YMCA on January 11th of 2023. So I'm going to talk about 2022 with all the knowledge I can give you. But I have great staff, so they helped me compile these numbers. So I'll just go through it quickly. I have one extra copy if you guys want to fight for it. Otherwise, I'll keep it. So I'm going to start with just membership numbers. And this is as of December 2022, so the end of the year. Our membership numbers change by the month with people canceling and joining, so it's very flowy. But just to read the report, if you have it in color, the black bold numbers are what the numbers were for membership at the end of 2022. The yellow ones are what 2021 was. So kind of nice to compare and see the growth. So we have family memberships, single parent family, couple, adult, senior, youth, and college. All membership types grew in 2022, so higher, except for senior and college, but they weren't too far off, relatively close. So that's good news, membership growth. As for how people pay for memberships, they can pay for it annually. We have a monthly bank draft that they can sign up for, but majority of our members do the pay as you go. They pay for this month, as it comes to expire, they pay again. And that doesn't necessarily have to be true to the month. It's you pay for 30 days. Once those 30 days come to expire, you can re-sign it for the next 30, and then you kind of have control on what your membership is and when you want it and when you don't. So that's the majority of them. Another membership type that's becoming more common are the third payer memberships. So we have two contracts now, one with Silver Sneakers and one with Renew Active. Those are both insurance-based memberships where we get reimbursed from their health insurance for membership. So Silver Sneakers gives us, it's like $3 every time one of their members scans in. We send them a report, they reimburse us like a daily fee. So that's how they pay for those. So those are the third payer memberships, which I think are going to be growing. I think it's going to be a more common occurrence.